friends, Mrs. Mapes here. I'm so excited that we're going to get to do some science together today. And to do some science, I want to go over the scientific method with you. I've attached all of these handouts to this video so you guys can have it for a reference or resource, but I want to show you the first thing that we're going to talk about in the scientific method is ask a question. And I know a lot of you guys are really good at asking questions. Today, the question that Melody and I had was, what is density? Can an object's density affect if something floats or sinks in water, Melody? I don't know. Can you change the water's density? I don't know. So those are really awesome, important, good questions, right? So in the scientific method, we're going to go to the next section, which is gather information. All right, well, so we need to observe, we need to look, we need to listen, we need to taste, we need to touch, we need to smell, we need to read, we need to ask an expert. All of those are great ways to gather information. Well, Mrs. Mapes happened to go on Google and I searched for density. And I found a definition. And the definition of density says, density is a word we use to describe how much space an object or substance takes up, its volume, in relation to the amount of matter in that object or substance, its mass. Another way to put it is that density is the amount of mass per unit of volume. So, if an object is heavy and compact, it has a high density. Okay? All right, so water, if we were to pour water in these glasses, right, the same amount of water in all these glasses, they would all have the same density. It would have the same volume and the same density, okay?
And the weight.
The mass is the weight. Yes, Melody. So, today, we're going to make the next thing in the scientific method, here we go, friends, is form a hypothesis. Say that at home, hypothesis. Say it.
Say it at home, a hypothesis.
No, I wanted you to say it, silly. All right, so a hypothesis is a really fancy way of saying guess the answer. All right, so today, our hypothesis, Melody, are you ready? Is going to be we can make a rainbow in water by changing the density of water for each different color. So we're going to layer water on top of each other so that we can make a rainbow. And the way we're going to do that is by changing the density of the water so that it kind of stacks on top of each other.
With sugar?
Yes, we are going to use sugar, Melody. We're going to use sugar. And the more dense the water is, it's going to be at the bottom. So the higher density, it's going to be at the bottom because it's heavier, okay? And the lighter density, or less dense the water is going to be at the top, all right? So, the third thing in a scientific method, so we've asked a question, we've gathered information, we just formed a hypothesis. Now, we're going to test our hypothesis with our experiment. Okay, so a couple of things that you need. I want you guys just to watch this experiment and see how it plays out. But you can also redo this experiment at home and see if the results are the same. I've attached the instructions and the supplies, everything you need to do. It's fairly simple. All right, friends, so let's go over the supplies we need to do this experiment. You're going to need 5 glass jars. I happen to have mason jars, but they can just be glass jars too. And spoons, because we're going to be stirring. You're going to need food coloring dye. So you're going to need at least 4 colors, because we're going to be making a rainbow. You need a 1 tablespoon measuring spoon. You need a syringe, which this happens to be just like a medical syringe that I got from the drugstore. Ask your parents, I'm sure you probably have one of these. And a 1/4 cup measuring cup. So 1/4 is the 1/4 cup measuring cup. And then, friends, I heated some water. So this is going to be our warm or slightly hot water that we're going to use to dissolve the sugar with. Okay, so the first step, Melody's going to be my assistant. So the first step, Melody, that we're going to do is we're going to pour a 1/4 cup of hot water into 4 of our jars, okay? So Melody, what I want you to do is just take the cup and scoop it into the bowl. Make sure that there's a full cup of water, that it's all the way to the top, and then you're gonna pour that into our jar. Now friends, you wanna make sure that you are
Accurate.
Yes, accurate, because we wanna make sure that they have the same amount of water. So do the next one, please, Melody. A 1/4 cup full, nice and full to the top. All right, and the third one. It's important too, friends, that you know that this water is all the same temperature. I think next week we might do an experiment on density involving temperature. Yep, good job, Melody. Okay, so now all 4 of our glasses have a 1/4 cup of slightly hot water. We're going to then add sugar. So Melody, what I want you to do is I want you to add 1 tablespoon of sugar to the first jar. 1 tablespoon, good. I see how she flattened it out to make sure that it's an accurate measurement. This is how we're going to affect our density. So this one is gonna have 1 tablespoon. All right, the next one, Melody, is gonna have 2 tablespoons. One. Good job. All right. The third one is going to have
3 tablespoons.
3 tablespoons. You want to instantly start stirring these, friends, too, because the hot water is going to help dissolve the sugar into the water. This is how we're changing the density of the water. You got 3 in there? Good job. And the last one, the 4th jar, is going to have 4. Now I'm just kind of looking at the jars, friends, and looking in the water and making sure that we want to make sure that all that sugar has been dissolved in the water. So you want to make sure you look in your glass jar and make sure that you can't really see any sugar floating around there, that it looks just like a liquid. That one's going to be really hard to stir, Melody, because it's got the 4 tablespoons of sugar in it, right? All right. I'm just making sure. If you're having a hard time dissolving this sugar in the water, you can heat the water up a little bit in the microwave. But then you're going to have to wait a little while to make sure that all of the jars go back to room temperature. It's like we're making musical instruments. Miss Gallagher would be happy. Can I see that one, Melody? Do you mind? Okay. Oh, you definitely can see that this one's a lot more dense because it's a lot thicker. I can still really see the sugar in there. You think we're ready to add the color?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we are going to do blue, 2 drops of blue food coloring into the jar that we added the 4 tablespoons of sugar. So here we go. 1, 2. And then I'm going to stir that one. It's going to turn into this lovely blue color. Yep, so the next jar that we're going to do, we're going to be adding green to. Need help? Your hands are kind of sticky, right, from the sugar? All right, here you go. So in the rainbow, we have blue and then we have green. Go ahead, Melody. 1, 2, 2 drops of green. And we're gonna stir that. Good. The next color that we're gonna be doing is yellow, or kind of like an orange yellow.
It's orange.
It's orange. All right, let's turn it. Ready? You're right, Melody. We did need to get that other. We have backup food coloring. Okay, 2 drops, please, Melody. 1, 2, and stir that one. There's our yellow, slash kind of orangey yellow.
Yellow-orange.
Yellow-orange. And our last one, the jar that we had only 1 tablespoon of sugar, is going to get red, because red is at the top of the rainbow. I was trying to use up all of our food coloring before we went to the new jars, but you know what? Okay, here, Melanie.
Oh, dried up.
It might have been dried up. That's okay. 1, 2. Okay.
3.
Well, stir that one.
Ooh.
Really make sure you stir them really good. You look in them. Make sure all the sugar looks all stirred up. All right. Here we go. So, the jar that we haven't used is going to be the jar that we are going to make our rainbow in. Now, this is important because we want to make sure that, I'm going to take all the spoons out. We want to make sure that we put the colors of the rainbow in the correct order. So we're saying, friends, that the blue has 4 tablespoons of sugar, so it is going to be more dense, or a higher density, than the other colors. So we're going to put that one in first. Melody, can you be my assistant and hold the jar at an angle like this so that I can use the syringe? Thank you. This is where you might need some help, friends. You're going to stick the syringe in and pull out to suck up the liquid. Now we're going to use 10 milliliters of liquid at a time. So there's 1. Now we're going to do it again. Ready, Melody? Hold the jar to an angle so it's easier to get the syringe in there. I'm going to have you do the top one, okay? This is easier. Here's our, so if we have 10 and we just added another 10, there's 20 milliliters. And we're going to keep going because we want to make sure that we see this rainbow, right? So here's another 10 milliliters. So now there are a total of 30 milliliters. Now, do you guys see that there's still some liquid kind of in your syringe? Yeah. So what we want to do for that, because we want to have this be accurate, is that we want to take and go ahead and just rinse.
Rinse it off.
Rinse and shake off your syringe. Remember, this is just sugar water, so. Okay. So, now we're ready for the next color. What was the next color supposed to be, Melody? We're going to put blue aside.
Green.
Green. Green is the next dense amount because, hold the jar please, Melody. The next dense amount because we put how many tablespoons, Melody? 3 tablespoons of sugar. So I'm going to use the syringe to suck up 10 milliliters of sugar, water, the green color. And I'm going to very slowly, very slowly put that on top of the blue water. And if this is going to work correctly, we should see that the green and the blue are separated, that they're not mixing together. So that is one color. Here we go, Melody. We got 2 more syringes to do. Hold the jar, please. Thank you. Here's our second syringe of the green. We're going to very slowly put that into the jar. Remember, this green is less dense, has a smaller density. Okay, and then one more syringe. Here we go, Melody. Can you hold the jar, please? Thank you. Our third milliliter. So now we've added 30 milliliters of green onto the blue. Okay, now I'm going to rinse the syringe. Shake it off and get it all ready for the next color. So the next color we have is yellow. I'll do a zoom in so that you guys can really see the jar up close. But Melody, please hold the jar at an angle. Thank you. It's kind of hard, friends, to get the syringe into the jar. So maybe even using smaller jars at home, especially with little fingers. Here's our yellow. So our yellow had 2 tablespoons of sugar. So we're going to add the yellow nice and slow on top of the green. So we should be seeing a layer of yellow on top. So here we go. Here's another. Melody really wants to do the syringe, and I'm not having her do that right now because the jars are too big. We should use smaller jars. So definitely at home, if you try to do this, friends, try to use a smaller glass jar or bowl. A bowl might be even easier to use. There's our second dose, and then our third dose. And then we're going to do our final color, which is red, on the top. So I'm going to rinse the syringe. Shake it out. Here we go. So now the red should have the lightest density. Please hold the jar, Melody. Actually, I started the syringe note at the bottom. Here we go. So it should go right on the top. All right, we've got 2 more of the red to go. And 1 more of the red to go. right, Melody, what does it look like to you?
Bad.
Well, if you look down at it, it all kind of looks like one solid color. But let's look really, really closely at the side.
It should be in the sun.
I think what we need is, nope, don't touch it. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna get, can you guys see really, really closely? Melody, can you we need a flashlight, I think. All right, friends, I realize that Mrs. Mapes really doesn't know a lot about videotaping things, but I'm trying to show you when I hold the jar up in the window and have some natural light, you can really see the different layers of colors. I recognize that you guys might not be able to see that so well with the camera, so even more reasons why I encourage you to try to do this at home for yourself so you can see it. It is quite pretty. We can see the blue very clearly with the green and then the yellow and then the red on top. So we just made a rainbow out of changing the density of the water, and we changed the density of the water by adding sugar. So the final stage in our scientific method is to state the results. So we are at share the results. So the blue water will remain on the bottom because it has a higher density since it received 4 tablespoons of sugar. Green will have less density than blue because it received 3 tablespoons of sugar. Yellow will have less density than green and blue because it received 2 tablespoons of sugar. And the red will have the lowest density than the others because it has only 1 tablespoon of sugar. You know, when you do science experiments, sometimes they always lead to another question. So my question would be, I wonder what would happen if you get the order mixed up when you do your layers. Do you think the colors would mix together? Or do you think they would move to the layer that they are based on their density? So we're going to do a further experiment to see if we change up the order that we put the water into the jar, what will happen? I'll post afterwards. So Melody is going to pour the colors out of order to see what happens. And we're just going to use the remaining amount of liquid that we have. So remember, friends, the yellow was the second to, now she's poured the red in. So what happened with the yellow and the red? Did they mix, Melody?
It looks like they mixed a little.
Oh, they didn't mix. Look, friends, can you see what's happening? The yellow...
But in like between there's a little orange.
The yellow, yeah, the yellow is mixing with the red right now, making some orange because they're 2 different densities, right? But we said that the red should be on top because it has the least amount of sugar in it, right? So it's the lighter density. All right, so what happens when we pour the heaviest density in there? Go ahead, Melody. All right, she's pouring the heaviest density in there, the blue. Let's see what happens. It's looking pretty blue. Let's see.
Green.
If it's gonna separate. Let's not add the green yet. Let's just wait. Let's just see what pans out here.
It's like greenish.
Something's
purple.
happening. Or did the blue just take over?
It's like a tie-dye.
It's like a tie-dye.
Like when you look in the sun, you see different all colors.
Have you guys ever played with those little things that you shake and they separate based on colors? It usually has oil and water in it because the oil is a lighter density than the water. You know what, Melody? I definitely see like there's more of a red at the top The blue is definitely at the bottom. I don't really see the yellow so much. I'm seeing some green in the middle because when you mix blue and yellow together, you get green,
No,
right? So I'm seeing.
It's shining off because the green's right there.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead and pour the green in. Let's just see what happens. Science is all about
It's now like greenish blue.
seeing what's happening. All right, I think what we'll do, Melody, I think we're gonna let it wait. We're just gonna give it some time and see if they separate based on the densities. Okay, so we waited a while on Melody's experiment, putting the densities out of order into the jar, and as a result, we see that the water actually ended up just mixing together and making this really pretty, like, blue-green color. So you definitely have to put the densities in order. I think it's because we're using water as our liquid, and water mixes really well with itself. So the sugar densities within the water just kind of mix together. But we had fun doing this, and we will maybe do another one next week. Say bye, Melody.
Bye.